Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the live studios here in Radha Lane. We've got our next door neighbor, Shobha, here, who hasn't been for a while because she had an accident also. But now us kindred souls are getting back together. Hare Krishna, Shobha. Nice to see you. She's also one of the best cooks in the world. Just in case you want to come here and visit. We'll line you up if you do. All right. Welcome to all of those out in cyberspace who are coming regularly to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam. You're very fortunate. I'm fortunate to have your association. So before we start, we're going to read the beautiful prayer glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Now I got so many things. I had to do a lot of things today. Okay. Written by Sanatana Goswami, the senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Doditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sivasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nishtadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayan Atini Chochata Kada Hanamun Chagadachin Mam Premnarit Kantayos Buddha. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam. Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purusa-sukta Confirmed. Beginning with text 38. So Brahma is continuing to explain to Narada, his son, the cosmic creation and how it is that he isn't God. He's explaining to Narada that just because everything's coming from me doesn't mean that I'm God, because I got it from someone else. So you've observed correctly that I'm doing austerities, therefore I can't be God. God doesn't need to do austerities to get anything, because he's self-sufficient. So here Brahma is speaking to Narada. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is. Purport. It is said that the transcendental name, form, qualities, pastimes, paraphernalia, personality, etc., cannot possibly be perceived by the gross materialistic senses. But, Hare Krishna, Bhaktimat, we finally got that photo over to him just before I started.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so now he's doing the needful. It is said that the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes, paraphernalia, personality, etc. cannot possibly be perceived by the gross materialistic senses. But when the senses are purified by the process of hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshipping the lotus feet of the holy deity, etc., the Lord reveals himself proportionately to the advancement of the quality of devotional service. Yayatam mam prapadyante. One should not expect the Lord to be an order-supplying agent who must be present before us as soon as we desire to see him. We must be ready to undergo the prescribed devotional duties, following the path shown by the predecessors in the disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, and similar authorities. As the senses are progressively purified by bona fide devotional service, the Lord reveals his identity according to the spiritual advancement of the devotee. But one who is not in the line of devotional service can hardly perceive him simply by calculations and philosophical speculations. Such a hard worker can present a jugglery of words before an audience, but can never know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal feature. The Lord has clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one can know him only by devotional service. No one can know the Lord by any puffed up material process of challenge, but the humble devotee can please the Lord by his earnest devotional activities. Thus the Lord reveals himself proportionally before the devotee. Lord Brahma therefore offers his respectful obeisances as a bona fide spiritual master and advises us to follow the process of Shravana and Kirtana. Simply by this process, or simply by hearing and chanting the glories of the activities of the Lord's incarnation, one can certainly see within himself the identity of the Lord. We have already discussed this subject in Volume 1 of Srimad-Bhagavatam in connection with this verse. Tach jadidana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shrutta grihitaya. Bhagavatam 1:2-12. The conclusion is that one cannot know the personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead fully by any method, but he can be seen and felt partially by the devotional process of hearing, chanting, etc. Text 39. That Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again. Purport. The creation is non-different from the Lord, and still he is not in the creation. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4 as follows. Maya tatamidang sarvam jagat avyakta mortina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shravastitaha. The impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth is also a form of the Lord called Avyakta Murti. Murti means form, But because his impersonal feature is inexplicable to our limited senses, he is the Avyaktamurti form. And in that inexplicable form of the whole creation is resting. Or in other words, the whole creation is the Lord himself, and the creation is also non-different from him. But simultaneously, he, as the original personality of God, as Sri Krishna, is aloof from the created manifestation. The impersonalist gives stress to the impersonal form or feature of the Lord and does not believe in the original personality of the Lord. But the Vaishnavas accept the original form of the Lord, of whom the impersonal form is merely one of the features. The impersonal and personal conceptions of the Lord are existing simultaneously, and this fact is clearly described both in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and also in other Vedic scriptures. Inconceivable to human intelligence, the idea must simply be accepted on the authority of the scriptures, and it can only be practically realized by the progress of devotional service unto the Lord, and never by mental speculation or inductive logic. The impersonalists depend more or less on inductive logic, and therefore they always remain in darkness about the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Their conception of Krishna is not clear, although everything is clearly mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. A poor fund of knowledge cannot comprehend the existence of an original personal form of the Lord when he is expanded in everything. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. So let's repeat that again. This is very, very important. This imperfectness is due more or less to the material conception that a substance distributed widely in parts can no longer exist in the original form. In other words, if you tear up a piece of paper and then blow it to the wind, you no longer have the piece of paper. That's a material conception when applied to God, because God can distribute himself everywhere and still maintain his original form and his original personality. That cannot be perceived directly by the material senses, but it can be perceived by the spiritual senses. The spiritual senses are underneath the material senses, and when the material senses are purified, then the actual senses become awakened. And then, just as a mirror that's dusty, you can't see clearly. You clean the mirror, you can see clearly. So when the mind and the senses of the body, of the conditioned soul, are purified, and then further purified by devotional service, then we can actually see with our spiritual senses, or understand and perceive how this can be true. Otherwise, we can't perceive and understand how it can be true properly, completely. The original personality of Godhead, Adya, Govinda, expands himself as the Mahavishnu incarnation and rests in the causal ocean, which he himself creates. The Brahma Samhita confirms this as follows: Yakaranar nabajale bhajiti smayoga nidram ananta jagadanda saroma kupaha adhara shaktim avalambya param swamurtim govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lord Brahmaji says in his Brahma Samhita, I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who lies down in the causal ocean in his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, with all the universes generating from the pores of hair on his transcendental body, and who accepts the mystic slumber of eternity. So this Mahavishnu is the first incarnation in the creation, and from him all the universes are generated and all material manifestations are produced. one after another. The causal ocean is created by the Lord as the Mahat Tattva, as a cloud in the spiritual sky, and is only a part of his different manifestations. The spiritual sky is an expansion of his personal rays, and he is the Mahat Tattva cloud also. He lies down and generates the universes by his breathing, and again, by entering into each universe as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, he creates Brahma, Shiva, and many other demigods for maintenance of the universe, and again absorbs the whole thing into his person, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva Bhutani Konteya Prakritim Yanti Mamekam Kalpak Shayi Punastani Kalpado Visrujam Yaham. O son of Kunti, when the kalpa, or the duration of the life of Brahma, is ended, then all created manifestations enter into my prakriti, or energy. And again, when I desire, the same creation takes place by my personal energy. The conclusion is that these are all but displays of the Lord's inconceivable personal energies, of which no one can have any full information. This point we have already discussed. Text 41. The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material things. I'll read it again. The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all-pervading, without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narada, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings and when sheltered under undisturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted, and the Lord disappears from our sight. That is the position of this material world. Purport. Here is an estimation of the Lord apart from his transcendental activities in the temporary material creations. Mayavad philosophy tries to designate the Lord contaminated by a material body when he accepts forms of incarnation. This sort of interpolation is completely denied herein by the explanation that the Lord's position is pure and unalloyed in all circumstances. According to Mayavada philosophy, the spirit soul, when covered by nations, is designated as jiva. But when freed from such ignorance or nations, he merges in the impersonal existence of the absolute truth. But here it is said that the Lord is eternally the symbol of full and perfect knowledge. This is his specialty, perpetual freedom from all material contaminations. What's your specialty? What's in your wallet? You got that, right? You got that application? We'll read that again. This is his specialty. Perpetual freedom from all material contaminations. This distinguishes the Lord from the individual common living entities who have an aptitude for being subordinated by nations and thus becoming materially designated. In the Vedas, it is said that the Lord is Vijnanam Anandam, full of bliss and knowledge. The conditioned souls are never to be compared to him, because such individual souls have the tendency to become contaminated, which the Lord never has. Makes the individual entity different from the Lord. In the Vedas it is said, Shuddham apapa vidam, The individual Atma becomes polluted by sin, but the Lord is never contaminated by sins. The Lord is compared to the powerful sun. The sun is never contaminated by anything infectious because it is so powerful. On the contrary, infected things are sterilized by the rays of the sun. Similarly, the Lord is never contaminated by sins. On the contrary, the sinful living entities become sterilized in contact with the Lord. This means that the Lord is also all-pervading like the sun. And as such, the word pratyak is used in this verse. Nothing is excluded from the existence of the Lord's potential expansions. Your mind's bent enough yet? Then like, don't worry, we won't break them. Just bend them a little bit. Stretch them a little bit so more things will fit in there. The Lord is within everything, and He is all-covering also, without being disturbed by the activities of the individual souls. He is therefore infinite, and the living entities are infinitesimal. The living entities are what? Infinitesimal. In the Vedas it is said that only the Lord alone exists, and all others' existences depend on Him. He is the generating reservoir for everyone's existential capacity. He is the supreme truth of all other categorical truths. He is the source of everyone's opulence, and therefore no one can equal Him in opulence. Being full of all opulences, namely wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, certainly He is the Supreme Person. And because He is a person, He has many personal qualities, although He is transcendental to the material modes. We have already discussed the statement, Itam Bhuta Guno Harihi. His transcendental activities are so attractive that even the liberated souls, Atmaramas, are also attracted by them. Although possessed of all personal qualities, He is nevertheless omnipotent. Therefore, personally, He has nothing to do, for everything is being carried out by His omnipotent energies. This is confirmed by the Vedic mantras, Parlasya Shaktir, Vividaiva Shruyate, Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. This suggests His specific spiritual form, which can never be experienced by the material senses. He can be seen only when the senses are purified by devotional service. Yam evaisha vrinute tena labhya. As such, there are basic differences between the Lord and the living entities in so many respects. No one can be compared to the Lord, as the Vedas declare. Ekam eva vitiyam brahma dvaitad vai bhayam bhavati. The Lord has no competitor, and He has nothing to fear from any other being, nor can anyone be equal to Him. Although He is the root of all other beings, there are basic differences between Him and other beings. Otherwise, there would have been no necessity for the statement in the previous verse that no one can know Him 100% as He is, na yam vidanti tat pena. That no one can fully understand Him is explained also in this verse, but the qualification for understanding to some degree is mentioned here. Only the prashantas, or the unalloyed devotees of the Lord, can know Him to a greater extent. The reason is that the devotees have no demands in their lives but to be obedient servants of the Lord. The reason is that the devotees have no demands in their lives but to be obedient servants of the Lord. While all others, namely the empiric philosophers, the mystics, and the fruitive workers, all basically have some demand, and as such they cannot be pacified. The fruitive worker wants reward for his work. The mystic wants some perfection of life. And the empiric philosopher wants to merge into the existence of the Lord. Somehow or other, as long as there is a demand for sense gratification, there is no chance for pacification. On the contrary, by unnecessary, dry speculative arguments, the whole matter becomes distorted, and thus the Lord moves still further away from our understanding. The dry speculators, however, because of their following the principles of austerity and penance, can have knowledge of the impersonal features of the Lord to some extent. But there is no chance of their understanding the ultimate form as Govinda, because only the Amalatmanas, or the completely sinless persons, can accept pure devotional service to the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavartaha. Text 42. Karanarnavashayi Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he is the master of eternal time, space, cause and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving. That pretty much includes everything. What's in your wallet? Oh, sorry. Now I'm going to hear that a lot from me. It was too good, you know. I'll try not to overuse it. It's a good one, huh? See, on TV, Krishna is this, this, this. You can have this. You can have everything. What's in your wallet? Purport. That the material creation is not permanent has been discussed many times herein before. The material creation is but a temporary exhibition of the material energy of the Almighty God. This material manifestation is necessary to give a chance to the conditioned souls who are unwilling to associate with the Lord in the relationship of loving transcendental service. Such unwilling conditioned souls are not allowed to enter into the liberated life of spiritual existence, because at heart they are not willing to serve. At heart they're not willing to do what? Serve. Just checking. Instead, they want to enjoy themselves as imitation gods. Sound familiar? The living entities are constitutionally eternal servitors of the Lord, but some of them, because of misusing their independence, do not wish to serve. Therefore, they are allowed to enjoy the material nature, which is called Maya, or illusion. It is called illusion because the living entities under the clutches of Maya are not factually enjoyers, although they think that they are, being illusioned by Maya. Such illusioned living entities are given a chance at intervals to rectify their perverted mentality of becoming false masters of the material nature. And they are imparted lessons from the Vedas about their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Vedaish Chisarvaya Aham Eva Vedyaha. So the temporary creation of the material manifestation is an exhibition of the material energy of the Lord, and to manage the whole show, the Supreme Lord incarnates himself as the Karnarnavashayi Vishnu, just as a magistrate is deputed by the government to manage affairs temporarily. the Karnadakashaya Vishnu causes the manifestation of material creation by looking over his material energy. Sa-aikshata. In the first volume of this book, we have already discussed to some extent the explanation of the verse Jagrihe Parusham Rupam. The duration of the illusory play of material creation is called a kalpa. And we have already discussed the creations taking place in kalpa, after kalpa. By his incarnation and potential activities, the complete ingredients of creation, namely time, space, cause, result, mind, the gross and subtle elements, and their interactional modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and then the senses and their reservoir source, the gigantic universal form, as the second incarnation, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and all living beings, both moving and standing, which come out of the second incarnation, all became manifested. Ultimately, all these creative elements and the creation itself are but potential manifestations of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is independent of the control of the Supreme Being. This first incarnation in the material creation, named Karanarnavashaya Vishnu, is the plenary part of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Described in the Brahma Samhita as follows: Yasyait Kanish Vasita Kalamata Valambhya Jivanti Loma Bilaja Jagarandanataha Vishnur Mahan Sa Ihayasya Kalavishesho Govinda Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. All the innumerable universes are maintained only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu, or Karnarnavashaya Vishnu, who is only a plenary part of Govinda, the original personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So when we think about meditating on God, this is where it begins. If you can actually learn this process, and we've been hearing it again and again, did you notice? We're hearing again and again with different aspects from different angles. The different constituents are described in different ways with different names. And at the end, after hearing it all the way through again and again and again through the Bhagavatam, and then again, we start to get it. And when you start to get it, you can start to contemplate it in your mind. And that is real meditation. Or, let's put it this way, it's the beginning of real meditation. The real meditation is when you can see the form of the Lord, or see the form of the Lord, or remember the form of the Lord when you look at anything or anyone. Because everything will remind you of the Lord. So these descriptions are meant to purify your intelligence, which will give it more capacity to remember the form of the Lord. When you go into the deity, to the temple, and you look at them, it's so beautiful. How beautiful is Radha Nilamadhava? I mean, it's like a knockout, punch. Just look at them, But the ability to maintain that remembrance, it goes with time. That's the nature of the material world, time. Even a few minutes. When we're very conditioned, even a few minutes we'll forget. And wait until you get old. Oh. So now is the time, kids. Prabhupada used to say again and again, just try to understand first. First things first. Just try to understand just how all-encompassing, how inconceivable, inexplicable Krishna is. That he can do all this that we're hearing about now. It's inconceivable to us now. But a mind, intelligence purified by hearing about this until we can actually grasp it as it's being said. In other words, hearing about it is actually non-different than meditation. And if you keep hearing about it, that meditation will grow and it will deepen and it will expand until you can encompass everything inside your mind. Then life becomes easy as anything. Text 43 to 45. I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Bhuloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, jinn, Kushmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth in the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Purport. None in the list given above. Just try to understand what you just heard, and then think about writing a purport. And then think about writing a purport to that verse. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods, men, spacemen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, Satans, evil spirits, jinn, aquatics, birds, and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually, none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena, as the Aborigines are fearful of a great Mount Thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the slight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of material, natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Sauriyas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people, as Janata, Janardana, or Daridra, Narayana, etc., in the form of Ganapati. And then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search for the ever-existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, etc., without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who is the original Lord Vishnu. In other ways, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, evil spirits, Satans, etc. The general worship of Shanideva, the Lord of distressful condition, and Sitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox. I'm sorry, that's not Sitala, it's Sitala Devi. There's a difference between Sitala and Sitala. Is also common to the mass of people. And there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people, or the poor class of men. So different persons, societies and communities, etc., worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object as God. But in this verse, it is advised by Lord Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Sri Krishna. When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship Him alone, it is to be understood that worshipping Lord Krishna includes worshipping all that is mentioned, because He, Lord Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above, within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represents the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends on the earth, or anywhere within the universe, the less intelligent class of men also mistake Him to be one of them, and thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does He belong to any of the multi-forms experienced within the universal forms. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instruction of Brahmaji. So this is a lot to take in, so I'm going to stop here a little earlier than I usually do. Because this is dense. One more to the verse. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Text 46. O Narada, now I shall state one after another the transcendental incarnations of the Lord, known as Leela Avataras. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. I'll say that again. This is too much, too nice. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished. Therefore, they are in my heart. Purport. As it was said in the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam 158, one cannot be fully satisfied by hearing unless and until one is given a chance to hear of the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Brahmaji is also trying in this verse to stress the importance of narrating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as He comes and manifests Himself here on the surface of the material planets. Every living entity has a tendency to hear pleasing messages, and as such, almost every one of us is inclined to hear news and talks broadcast by the radio stations. Or nowadays, the internet. The internet wasn't there when he wrote this. He would have said internet otherwise. This was written before the internet. But the difficulty is that no one is satisfied at heart by hearing all those messages. The cause of such dissatisfaction is the incompatibility of the message with the innermost stratum of the living soul. This transcendental literature is especially prepared by Srila Vyasadeva to give the utmost satisfaction to the people in general by narration of the activities of the Lord, as instructed by Sri Narada Muni to Srila Vyasadeva. Such activities of the Lord are principally of two varieties. One concerns the mundane manifestation of the material creative force, and the other deals with His pastimes in the form of different incarnations in terms of the time and place. There are innumerable incarnations of the Lord, like the waves of the river flowing constantly in and out. Less intelligent persons take more interest in the creative forces of the Lord in the material world, and being disconnected from their relationship with the Lord, they put forward many theories of the creation in the name of scientific research. The devotees of the Lord, however, know well how the creative forces work concurrently by the action and reaction of the material energy of the Lord. Therefore, they take more interest in the transcendental activities of the Lord as He incarnates Himself on the surface of the material world. Srimad-Bhagavatam is the history of such activities of the Lord. And people who take interest in hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam clear their hearts of accumulated mundane filth. Did your mother ever tell you to wash your mouth out with soap? All right. Wash your mind out with soap. Go to sleep, take a dream, and wash that dream body. It's filthy. There are 1,001 rash literatures on the market, but one who has taken interest in the Srimad Bhagavatam loses all interest in such filthy literatures. Sri Brahmaji is thus attempting to narrate the principal incarnations of the Lord so that they may be drunk by Narada as transcendental nectar. Thus end the Bhakti, the purports of the second canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Purusa-sukta Confirmed. Who's writing like that nowadays? Who's writing like, where can you read this? No. Huh? Here. It's true. They've got all these newspapers and magazines. Now it's the internet. It's just unlimited. It's like everybody's overloaded with knowledge. And because all of it is useless, imagine what's happening to their minds. It's like they're being boiled in oil. Seriously. Jeez. Okay, we're going to stop here. Right on time, by the way. And ask for reflections. Now we're going to test your mettle. Can you reflect on what you just heard? Okay, Hannah, go for it. You can do it.
We read, the spiritual sky is an expansion of His personal rays. So, it's coming from the top of all of creation, from Vrindavan, right? So why does it emanate all the way to our planet, but wrapped in the heart of creation?
The Brahmajyoti is right here. Just like when the sky is blue. Why is the sky blue? The sky is blue because Krishna's body is blue. And then when a cloud comes, the cloud covers that part of the blueness and you can no longer see it. But it's there. Underneath the cloud, the sky is there. It is holding the cloud. It's accommodating the cloud. The sky is the accommodating chamber, or the ether is the accommodating chamber within the covered walls of the universe that accommodate clouds. So the Brahmajyoti is underneath what we're seeing right now, and it's accommodating all the when you were a kid, you ever look late and watch the clouds and see how they move, and then, oh, look, there's a lion. No, there's a tiger. No, there's whatever. And get absorbed in it as a kid. Dreamland, dream world. And you got your friend next to you and you say, and then you start talking, and then you're there and you're doing this, you're doing that. It's like play. It's like child play. So that's how the Lord is spread everywhere, through His energy. Just as the sun's rays are spread all through the creation, or the universe, so Krishna's rays of His body are spread everywhere. And everything is resting on them. Somebody know the verse? Matta Paratanam Nanyat. Come on, you can do it. Somebody can do it. Matta Paratanam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Gana Ima Iva. Sutre Manigana Iva. Manigana Iva means as pearls are strung on a thread. Krishna says, Mattak Paratanam Nanya, there's no living being superior to me. And everything is resting on me as pearls are strung on a thread. So when pearls are strung very nicely on a thread, what happens to the thread? You can't see it. It's underneath. But the pearls are very beautifully draped and look nice. And then what happens when you break the string? All the pearls go everywhere. And they don't look so nice because they're not being held up by the string. So the material energy is what we're hearing here, is that material energy comes from the body of the Lord and acts and looks like a cloud in the Brahmajyoti, the spiritual sky. And then that process of creation is being described here. We've heard it now, twice or three times so far. And in the third canto we'll hear it even more detail, in more detail. So that Brahmajyoti is Krishna. Just like the sun rays, when we're sitting in the room and the sun rays come in the room, we'll say, oh, the sun is in the room. Isn't it? Sometimes we say that. The sun is in the room. The sun isn't in the room. If the sun were in the room, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be there. We'd be roasted, toasted. Not even evaporated. Not even. So like that, the rays of the sun are the sun, and we acknowledge it every day. But it's still not the sun. So Krishna's Brahmajyoti, which is the effulgence, the spiritual effulgence coming from his body, which actually transforms into that cloud, just as the sun transforms the water and makes the cloud. The sun makes the cloud, and then the cloud covers the sun. So the Brahmajyoti makes the cloud, and that covers Krishna. Therefore, it says in here, in these verses and in these purports, actually, Krishna is everything, in a sense. Because everything's emanating from Krishna and being transformed and transformed and transformed by his energies, just by his will. Therefore we worship him. Therefore we pray to him for mercy. Therefore we pray to him for intelligence and strength to be able to what? To serve him. We don't want to pray to him, as we heard, God is not an order supplier, just to do what we want him to do and give us what we want to have. That's a part of the question, the answer to the question. Okay, I'm going to go now because I had a really harrowing day and I got to do something tonight before I take rest, and then I got to get up really early in the morning and read the Chaitanya Charitamrita for the audiobook for the BBT. So, thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you for thanking. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Give this to Shobha. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Shobha. Thank you for cooking so nicely and listening so nicely and being so nice. Everyone loves you because you're a pure devotee of the Lord. What is that verse? Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma, Yuga Yukto, Vishudatma, Vijitendra, Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma, Kurvanapi Lipite. If you just become pure and work purely and don't be attached, then you become dear to everyone and everyone becomes dear to you. Pure, and even though working, you will not become entangled. Kurvanapi nalipite. You won't become entangled. Doesn't mean that you stop working, you stop enjoying. You actually enjoy. We're trying to enjoy our own senses, this what belongs to somebody else. If you're a thief and you stole something and you're sitting in the alley some way and looking for a place to enjoy it, you're always in anxiety. Okay, I'm going to go. Thank you very much, everyone, in cyberspace. Did we get any questions from Rati? Not today? Okay. We had some problems in Hong Kong with the reception because it was that big typhoon that hit, the biggest typhoon like anything. They lost some reception. Anyway, hopefully it's recorded so they can listen to it later. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari.